Hey everyone, Eunson here. By far the topic that I've been asked about the most in 2024 right here on YouTube and, well, just about everywhere has been triads. And as a matter of fact, I talked about triads a little bit in my recent video about 10 concepts that might just help you in the new year. And you can check that video out up here. But today I'd like to go into a little bit more depth about triads and discuss with you 5 triadic concepts that I think can potentially expand your language on guitar in 2025. For those of you who happen to be regular viewers of my channel, you'll know that the topic of triads happens to be one of my personal favorites. But today, rather than going back over triadic concepts that we've already discussed, I'd like to focus on 5 specific triadically based concepts that I use, and I think you might get some use out of as well. Make sure to let me know in the comments which one of these 5 triadic approaches is most useful to you. Perhaps there'll be one in particular, perhaps you'll like all of them, and of course perhaps you might not like any of them. Make sure to let me know, and if you would like to develop your knowledge of triads on the guitar neck in even greater depth, make sure to join me at bensguitarclub.com, where you can learn with my masterclasses how to solo with triads and how to play triad pairs and hexatonic scales, both of which go into considerable depth in terms of exploring how you can apply triads within the context of your own improvisational language on guitar. Alright, let's get started. Let's begin by discussing basic triadic inversions. If we were to take a C major triad and look at it in the 3 basic triadic inversions, we'd have root position, first inversion, and second inversion. In my personal experience, the second inversion triad is at times the most versatile, particularly while you're soloing, but it's also underutilized. Now, my suggestion would be that you should take the second inversion triad and try and add it as part of your soloing as much as you can. And a great way to begin with this is just by taking second inversion triads in C major, starting off with the C major triad, then the D minor triad, the E minor triad, F major triad, the G major triad, the A minor triad, and of course finally the B diminished triad. While exploring these diatonic triads in C major, you can even throw in a type of pattern to make it sound a little bit more interesting. Now, you may well have heard that type of second inversion triadic pattern amongst certain guitarists, and it does sit beautifully on the guitar neck. For me personally, I initially became aware of the power of this triadic sound from listening to great saxophone players like John Coltrane and Joe Henderson. But the fact is, no matter who your musical influences are, or for that matter, what style of music you're interested in playing, this can be an incredibly powerful sound, and I hope it's something that you find to be useful in terms of your own soloing language on guitar. Next up, I'd like to again discuss spread triads. Once again, I discussed spread triads in some depth in my previous video discussing 10 concepts that might help you in the new year. So make sure to check that out if you're interested in learning what the basic definition of a spread triad is. But in terms of practical usage, I've always found spread triads to be useful not only in terms of single note soloing, but also in terms of how beautiful they can sound when played chordally. This particular approach involves taking 2 spread triads to essentially create the sound of a 5-1 cadence. Now here's a basic 5-1 cadence in C major using 7th chord voicings. We have G7 resolving to C major 7. If we were to take a more triadically based approach, we could instead substitute the G7 with an F diminished spread triad in second inversion, which would sound a little bit like this. And we could resolve to a spread C major triad, which would sound a little bit like this. played in real time, this would cause our modified 5/1 cadence to sound like this. If you'd like to be even more daring, straying from the sound of the basic 5/1 cadence I played for you earlier, you can even assign a certain mode to the sound of this F diminished spread triad in second inversion, particularly the B Lydian mode. Resolving to our C major sound, where we could assign the basic C major scale. To learn more about triads, make sure to check out How to Solo with Triads at bensguitarclub.com. The third approach that I'd like to discuss today is one that I have discussed in the past, but not with this particular methodology. And the approach involves utilizing the 3 primary triads in a given key. In C major, those primary triads would be C major, F major, and G major. This of course means that our primary triads are chords 1, 4, and 5 in a given key. To make this a little bit more interesting, it can be fantastic to take 2 keys and isolate the primary triads in those 2 keys and begin to improvise with them. For example, our primary triads in C major are, as we discussed, C, F, and G. What if we then alternated between C major and E flat major? In E flat major, our primary triads would be E flat, A flat, and B flat. We could alternate between the keys of C major and E flat major and utilize the primary triads in both of those keys. So far, we've spent a good amount of time discussing triadic approaches involving a single note picking approach, particularly with our first and third approaches. But now, instead, let's look at taking a chordal approach to soloing with triads. Don't be afraid to take your basic triadic inversions, for example, root position, first inversion, and second inversion, and try soloing with these inversions even just within the context of a basic C major triad. You'll be surprised at how much mileage you can get out of just one triad when soloing with the chordal inversions of that triad. And the final approach that I'd like to discuss today is actually quite a simple one, and that is making sure that you don't just get stuck in a 1-octave range when soloing with triads. Now, as nice as this can be, just sticking within the octave, we can typically achieve somewhere between a 2 and 3 octave range on the guitar neck with just about any arpeggio. So why not make the most of that? Let's take a C major triad arpeggio and a D minor triad arpeggio and see what we can do. For more information on where you can play triads on the guitar neck spanning several octaves at a time, make sure to check out How to Practice Volume 2 Arpeggios and What to Do with Them at bensguitarclub.com. And that's it! Which one of these approaches did you find to be particularly useful? Maybe you liked all of them. Maybe you didn't like any of them. Make sure to drop a comment down below and let me know. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like so that we can push it out to as many people as possible, and consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my upcoming playing videos, lesson videos, a bit like this one, and discussions about music. Keep on playing, keep on soloing with triads, and I'll see you next time.